Party of support for the ban. Where do they get that? Let's discuss with CNN contributor Salena Zito. She's also a reporter for the Washington Examiner and reporter and a columnist for the New York Post, and CNN political analyst and national political reporter for the New York Times, Mr. Alex Burns. Salena Zito, you are the self-appointed Trump people whisperer. Do you believe this notion
we appointed her that
that Sean Spicer says that a majority of the country agrees with the president about the immigrant ban?
I would agree that the majority of his supporters agree with the ban, and I did go out and drove around Pennsylvania and Ohio over the weekend, talked to a lot of people on the Amtrak train yesterday from Pittsburgh to Washington, and there were a lot of people that did not vote for him who like the idea of the sort of stoppage, the pause. They like the idea of a more rigorous vetting. They're not particularly thrilled with the way that he did it. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, they like the idea. They believe that we need to do a better job of vetting, and they didn't see it as a religious ban. I think the problem Trump got into with people calling it that and feeling it is that way is because of the rhetoric that he used during the campaign.
And Salena, one more question for you before we get to Alex. When you point out to those people, there's never been a refugee who's been involved in a terror attack here, what do they say to the facts?
Good question. They don't look at it as it's targeting any one person. They look at they understand that a refugee has never done that, or a current refugee. I think the guy from Ohio State was actually a refugee from Somalia. I'm not positive, but I think that he was. But they don't look at it that way. They look at it as a stopgap way to check everyone, right, whether they're refugee or Christian or Muslim, whatever their motivation is.
Jeffrey Lord joins us now. Is he in there? Has he got it? There we are. Tried to duck us, Jeffrey Lord. Not today, not today. So, Jeffrey, look, it is impossible to say through any series of interviews that you know where all the Trump supporters are on anything. We take that, we stipulate to that as a notion. But, there was always a disconnect with people who are voting for Trump, between people who are sick of the system, sick of the status quo, and wanted somebody to go in there and try and change things, and agreement about how he spoke and how he felt about people, especially when it came to Muslims. How do you think that's going to play out with this ban, which by the president's own words was a Muslim ban in its inception?
Well, it's not a Muslim ban. I mean, he's going after terrorists is basically what he's doing. And I have to tell you, Chris, I mean, people here in this part of Pennsylvania, at least, in Pennsylvania voted for him, get it. They understand it. They are concerned. They're concerned for safety. And it's as basic as that. There was a great piece on CNN last night where Randy Kaye went into a Pennsylvania diner and talked to folks. These are the kind of folks that I talk to all the time, and it's a pretty basic thing with them. They're not anti-immigrant. I mean, the whole country is filled with 100% descendant of immigrants, so they're not, including all of these folks. So they're not anti-immigrant, but they for sure want something done, and that's what he's about, and they understand at a very basic level he's trying to protect them.
Alex, what are you hearing?
Look, I think when you talk to folks in Washington on both sides of the aisle, and frankly folks out in the states who aren't just representing the sort of core Trump constituencies in the Rust Belt that Jeffrey and Salena are talking about, there's just an enormous degree of uncertainty about how the public is going to react, not just to the substance of the order, but just the spectacle that's unfolded over the last few days. It's one thing, we've always known that there are people, a very significant share of the electorate that supports restrictions on immigration, people who are very concerned about terrorism and are not supportive of refugee admissions broadly. That, taking those views on an abstract level is very, very different from seeing things implemented exactly the way they have been implemented. And in a lot of ways, this focus on Trump's base misses the larger point that he cannot govern the country solely with his base. Right. Even just as a matter of legislation, a majority of the Senate is not made up of Trump supporters.
Right. I have one thing that I question, Salena, which is this idea that you and Jeffrey are putting out there that they get what the reality is, but they like that he's protecting them. I don't know how those two go together, because we just had Congressman Chris Collins on. You can't defend the ban on the basis of fact, Jeffrey. You can't do it because the threat doesn't exist from the groups that are being banned right now. You know this.
Chris,
You've heard the stats again and again. So I get that people are afraid because you're making them afraid, but I don't get where the threat is articulated in fact to encourage this ban.
Wow.
Yes,
Chris,
Jeffrey.
my friend.
Please.
Look, I mean, these are people living their everyday lives, and they look at the collective here. They look at 9/11. They look at what happened in San Bernardino.
This would not have stopped 9/11.
Or San Bernardino.
Chris,
San Bernardino.
Chris, they're looking at threat. They're looking at threat. This is what they see as reality.
But you're selling the solution that wouldn't have saved them from those threats.
Chris, they are looking at the fact that, and it is a fact, that he wants to protect them. That's what they're looking at. And they're looking at this, and they're seeing that it could be them, it could be anybody, any day.
I know, but...
And the fact that you're, Chris, you're dancing around this. No, you're saying, oh, well, this kind of...
Honestly, I think I'm stopping the music, to be honest with you. Because I'm saying, well, Chris, show me the facts that justify the threat from refugees. Show me the fact that justifies the threat from refugees in this country right now, or from any of the people in those countries that you're stopping right now.
Chris, I don't, my friend, I'm not sure you hear how you sound. The way what you just said sounds, it's like people are hearing, okay, let's wait until we get a whole bunch of dead people, and then we'll do it.
No,
I mean, they're not going to go down that road.
I get that works for you. I get it, and I applaud your efforts. Do that. That's what politics is about. Here's what I'm saying. If you're going to ban people, if you're going to keep me safe from the people who want to hurt me. Put Saudi Arabia on the list, because that's where all the 9/11 people came from. You didn't do that. Why? Make me safe from the real threat, Jeffrey. If someone's trying to break into the house, don't take my house cat and throw it out the window. Stop the guy at the window.
How many times has he said that the real threat is radical Islam? Radical Islam.
Fine.
So it doesn't make any difference.
You
want to divide people. You want to divide people geographically. I'm saying what he's targeting is radical Islam, something he has talked about endlessly.
So how do refugees fit into that argument, Jeffrey?
Because we're not being attacked by a bunch of Episcopalians, Allie. We're being attacked by
a bunch
and
of
there it is.
So it is religious.
There it is. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Islam, not just Muslims, radical Islam.
Well, you just said Episcopalians.
There is a difference.
Can I
Selena, give us a last word. We got to go. Go ahead.
I interviewed several people that are current, people that have immigrated within the past 20 years from the Middle East. And they were all of Muslim faith. And they also are very concerned about ISIS and about the impact that the bad guys have on them. They don't mind the ban. They really don't. But they don't like the way he did it. They would have rather have seen a Muslim cleric standing there with him and talking about it. Optics are everything, and that. But
optics should not be everything. Alex, last point.
I'm sorry, but just this notion that there's this huge community of Muslim immigrants out there who would be totally fine with this policy if there had been a cleric standing next to Donald Trump. I mean, I believe that Selena spoke to some people who may have said that, but in my experience dealing with people in that community and other similar communities, that's nowhere near a representative view.
Well, I didn't say huge. I just said I talked to a handful of people.
All right, we will continue this conversation and debate. Thank you very much to all of our panelists.
And we do it for you. So what do you think? Tweet us at New